Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Get ready, pal.
Biden has been meeting with him, trying to make amends. We've got a big Feel Good Friday show lined up for you all this morning. We have Mayor Buffaloe coming on at 6:35.
When you told me this yesterday, what did I say to you?
You were like, people are going to be mad. So a quick story. What you might not know is on Brandon's last day, he took a flight. We said I was going to be on the flight too. I get to the airport. The first person I see, now I know Brandon is on his way. The very first person I see is Mayor Buffaloe. And the two of them had a very nice chat.
And that was also the week of the infamous T-shirt.
The T-shirt
that he had been talking about on air all week long.
Yes, so I think they had a nice conversation about that. But what I want to, and I know it's a Feel Good Friday, so we're going to try to keep it lighter. But what she was actually leaving for this trip. She knows a whole bunch of other mayors. There's some group that she's in. And so I want her, and I think she was going to China for quite an extended visit. And I think that's really interesting. We talked a little bit with the Hawthorne Foundation yesterday about all of the efforts they're doing, going out to, different countries and saying Missouri's a great place. And so for our own mayor to kind of be on one of these trips and be learning and then also be talking about Missouri, we're going to talk to her about that. How about that, Hannah? Will that be okay?
I mean, that's okay with me. I'm just a little worried about some of the Wake Up family.
All right. Well, we are excited.
The protesters are outside.
We are excited here. Hold on a sec. Okay, let's say that one more time. We're going to welcome in Dr. Ashley Immel.
Good morning.
Good morning. She is sitting in as guest co-host today, so we're so glad to see you on this Feel Good Friday. And you actually hooked us up with this interview today. We're going to talk to Superintendent Dr. Tim Roth.
Yeah, we're going to talk to Dr. Roth, Southern Boone Superintendent, about the growth of the community, maybe some great things that are coming down the pipeline for the Ashland community in the school district.
I like it. That will be at 7:10, and then at 8:10 we're going to talk to Lindsey Lopez of the Food Bank for Central and Northeast Missouri. Of course, we know there are a lot of needs in our community, and with Thanksgiving coming up, certainly there are a lot of people who will be benefiting by their work. So I think getting some insights about what they're seeing and then what they actually need, I think is really exciting. John, we hear a lot about, and especially from the left, and especially I think they put a pause on kicking anybody off of state benefits during COVID. And we hear, constant from the left that, we're kicking people off of these benefits and that we're, heartless and all of this. We hear less about actually there's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse in these programs. And they really need to be reviewed, except apparently they got somebody.
They've been cracking down lately here in mid-Missouri. The latest is a Jefferson City couple accused of getting thousands of dollars in food stamps that they weren't entitled to. Aaron and Susan Birdsong charged with accessing over $30,000 worth of benefits. And the charging statement says they're accused of not listing each other and children in the home on the applications for assistance. So, yes. We've had several stories here lately about this, and they're going after them.
It's not only, it's not just about getting money to people, but it's getting money to the people who actually need it. So not only do you have to have money to hand out, you have to have money to run an efficient and effective program where you're not just doling it out to people who don't qualify. So I'm personally glad to see that. We got some Mizzou news yesterday as well. The curators met. they raised the price for room and board. It's going to go up here in Columbia about $450. I don't know what that brings
Didn't it just go up?
I think it goes up every year.
Does it go up every year?
I know when I was a freshman at Mizzou, I believe that between the 2 semesters that I lived in the dorm on campus, I want to say it was around $10,000.
Yikes.
And is it mandated for freshmen to live on campus that first year? Do you know, Hannah?
It's strongly encouraged. I think there's ways around it if you really want to try. But I mean, some students end up living on campus all 4 years.
Mm-hmm. I know that's tough for anybody, especially in this economic climate. But at the same time, the university is not immune to all of the pressures that we face as individuals and as businesses. And I think when citing, they said we've got third parties and we've got contracts, and I'm sure those people are raising their prices. And so we did see that. We also saw they elected a new chair and vice chair. So Robin Winokur, who I know is familiar to many of our family members here, and then vice chair she was elected the chair. Todd Graves, who was just on our program, elected vice chair. So I'm really excited about that, and I think Mizzou is really headed in the right direction. And there is a huge game tomorrow. Brian, give us a preview.
Worth mentioning, Todd Graves, also a former U.S. attorney as well. And I do have a point I'd like to make in a moment about the this stuff about benefits being cut, because I have some numbers that kind of provide some perspective on that. The game tomorrow for Mizzou is big. It's probably not as big as the one last week against Tennessee, because it's not a top 15 matchup, but it's nonetheless big. Mizzou right now 8-2 in the driver's seat for a 10-2 season. They easily could be undefeated. If they defend Malik Neighbors in the LSU game, and somehow he got behind the defense and a couple of breaks in the Georgia game, they could be. And I know that'd be very hard to do, but they're number 9 right now in the college football poll. Florida will be gunning for them. They're a good football team. It won't be an easy game, but Mizzou should be the favorite. And I'm still waiting to hear back from Mizzou if it's a sellout or not. If it's not, it's got to be pretty close. So tickets I know will be at a premium. And if you can't see it in person, it'll be on ESPN, of course, on Zimmer Stations, KCMQ, and also 100.5 KTGR through the Central Bank Tiger Radio Network. It's
KWS as well.
KWS as well, absolutely, in Jefferson City. So that's a big deal.
Well, and we hope that you will join us, Hannah. It is our last Tiger Tailgate of the season.
It is. We're going to be set up in front of Mizzou Arena. Gates open at 4:30, and you can check out either of the station websites to get a list of locations on where you can pick up your free Tiger Tailgate passes.
Awesome. Well, Brian, you said you had some data on the benefits.
Yes. Yeah, and I've heard the same thing too, that this is being cut, and we did back in 2005 there was a Medicaid cut. Former Governor Matt Blunt, there is no question about it. The Post-Dispatch at that time ran an editorial called "The House of Hypocrites," and they actually put a picture of all the House Republicans on there and blasted them. All but one of them, by the way, was reelected the following year, and the guy that got beat was Larry Morris from Springfield. I'll just give you these statistics here for you're talking about benefits, because they've stayed basically pretty steady. With Medicaid expansion, a lot of the expansion we saw was in 2021 and then 2022. It stayed pretty steady. It'll go up a little bit, go down. In November of 22, these are people on Mo Health Net, which is Medicaid. It was 1.4 million, 1,425,000 in November of 22. In October of 23, 1,441,000. So about 16,000 of an increase, and it'll go up and down a little bit. For people that are on food stamps, that number was, for families, 333,000 in November of 2022. It's now about 322,000, but it'll go fluctuate, go up and down. So you still have, if you look at it, let's say we have 6 million people in the state, 1.4 million of them are on Medicaid. Wow. That is that hardly ever, by the way. I try to do that once a month to give the updated counter. That's a very powerful number. And granted, the voters of this state approved Medicaid expansion. They did. Governor didn't like it, but he had to do it because the Supreme Court ordered the legislature and him to do that. And obviously he followed the court rule. But that is where we're at right now. the worry that some Republicans in the legislature have is this number sustainable? But again, it seems to be this number. We actually peaked. It looks to me we peaked in June, 1.5 million. So it's down about 50,000, but it goes up and down.
But
right
as a percentage of the entire state budget, I mean, it eats up a huge chunk.
Yeah, I don't have that number right in front of me. It's a couple $1 billion, and a lot of that comes from federal money. It's really hard to dissect the budget right now because you have so much federal money, and a lot of that's going to be going away, and not as much general revenue. But yes, it is a huge amount of, and the Democrats would argue, look, we're getting federal money for it, and if we don't take it, other states will. That's their argument. So we'll see what happens. But the governor has made it clear in his budget he will include Medicaid expansion because they're eligible. They are eligible, but that number does fluctuate every month.
Well, I hope equally he includes money to find these people like we just heard about from John who are abusing the system and stealing from the taxpayers of Missouri. So we'll keep our eye on that as well. We, again, are going to be talking with Barbara Buffaloe at 6:30. So I hope you'll stick around for that. We are also throughout today. We're going to be playing you some clips. Last night, I had the joy of going to Southern Boone Elementary School under the direction of Mr. Hennessy. They had a Veterans Day concert, and when you think the world is going to, crap, you can go to one of these concerts and you can hear these kids, and they are all dressed in red, white, and blue. The grandmas and grandpas are there. They stand for the veterans, and it really crazier and crazier, and it's not helping him in the polls at all. And even though Nikki Haley kind of stepped in it this week talking about how everyone on social media needs to be verified and there is going to be, under her reign, no such thing as anonymous speech, I think she's still leading, or she's still surging, at least gaining in the polls. Of course, she is a very distant second to former President Trump, but in states like New Hampshire, it's showing that she is picking up some numbers. Most of them, I think, will be at a roundtable in Des Moines today. Nikki Haley, DeSantis, Ramaswamy. Of course, Trump is still not really showing up to anything. Ashley, you think that hurts him?
I don't think he thinks it hurts him. I think that he'll just continue to do what he's doing.
I mean, why wouldn't you? His numbers are so good.
They are. He's ahead of everybody.
But it would be kind of nice to see him interact with the other candidates. I think, like, on a debate stage or at one of these roundtables, he just annihilates everyone else. But I could see it getting really nasty. Of course, they like to throw shade at Trump. But he's not there to really defend himself. Mm-hmm. And of course, he gets really nasty on Truth Social against anybody who dares to say, a word against him. But I would love to see them go head to head, really, in my heart of hearts.
And now they've lifted the gag order against him temporarily.
That's right. What else do you know about that, John?
That's what the judge said, and it's up for discussion now. But we're just waiting for the latest Truth Social postings this morning.
It's coming.
It is coming. All right. Well, we do know that Biden has been out in San Francisco all week. He's been meeting with Chinese president, he's been meeting with Xi Jinping, excuse me. He's meeting today with the president of Mexico. Obviously, a lot to talk about there. They're expected to talk about strengthening regional cooperation and combating corruption and boosting trade. Maybe we should talk about the porous border, just saying. Also, today, we are hearing more about George Santos. What on earth is going on with this guy? I know, the numbers are really close, and so I know we've got to be careful when we're, voting to expel somebody, but I guess we're expecting a vote today that would then queue up another vote on whether to expel him. But his ethics report has gotten so weird. Did you see, Ashley, what he's been paying for?
Yeah, so the fans only advertisement, which there's so much of that in the news lately with teachers and now this. That's going to get really interesting. We'll see if he does, get expelled or if he's going to get to continue on.
It's been so bizarre. So, yeah, he had an OnlyFans thing. Apparently, he was shopping at Sephora. Maybe he got, some plastic surgery. And this is a report that came out from the House Ethics Commission. So, actually documented receipts somebody went through. And the point is, if you're taking donations, and this the same rule is here in Missouri, not only with the FEC, but with the MEC, the Missouri Ethics Commission, you're not allowed to essentially enrich yourself by taking these donations. You're supposed to have to use it for your campaign.
Right.
And so you can't, pay your mortgage. You can't use it for maybe your gambling habit. You can't, and so, probably can't use it for your OnlyFans habit or your makeup at Sephora, what is that dude buying at Sephora anyway?
Maybe he needs it for press conferences.
I don't know. So
little translucent powder to cut down on the shine.
Powder.
Yeah, there you go.
A little gloss.
Trim up his eyebrows a little bit.
Yeah. It's 2023, Stephanie, okay? Dudes can shop at makeup stores.
But in all seriousness, they do wear it for the press conferences and debates and everything else.
So maybe that's a legitimate campaign expense. I doubt it. And we've seen criticisms of other elected officials, and usually when they're sitting, of spending money on hairstylists or clothes or whatever. I mean, that's always kind of a hot topic, especially. And I think even him, I think he was at an Hermes store buying some really expensive luxury goods.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Yeah.
Well, the big news flash on DeSantis, he said, I'm not DeSantis on Santos. He said, I'm not going to run for re-election. It's probably a good idea.
Probably a good
idea.
idea.
He's finally standing down, but he's also going to get this, so he won't run for re-election. We know that. But the question is he going to get expelled? And then you think, are they really going to vote to expel that guy before they vote to, any vote to expel Menendez, the guy with the gold bars? I mean, which one's worse, right?
That's a good question.
I don't know. It's crazy. I think we have reached a new era in bad behavior by congressional members. almost wearing red, Hannah.
Oh, Hannah.
We typically wear red on Fridays. Why, Hannah?
To remember everyone deployed.
You do have red writing on your shirt, so we will give you a pass for today.
I'll go ahead and nominate myself for loser of the week. It's okay.
Brian's got his red on, so we're having a Feel Good Friday. We're really excited. We've got Dr. Ashley Immel is sitting in as guest co-host. Good morning. And we've got Brian Hauswirth.
It's good to see you, and welcome to Dr. Immel as well.
You've heard producer Hannah this morning.
Hello.
And John Marsh is here with us.
Man, that's me picking on him.
All right. Well, we've also got Barbara Buffaloe, the mayor of Columbia, on the line. And we had a fun encounter at the airport a few weeks ago when Brandon and I were essentially flying out at the same time. And so were you. You were going on this trip. So tell us about where you were going and why you were going.
Yeah. So that was crazy, especially when you all of a sudden just made Brandon appear, which appeared out of nowhere. And I was like, you have some powers when you step into the host position, Stephanie.
There we go.
So I was departing from COU to make the long trek to go to China. So I was leaving Saturday. What time were we leaving? Friday? Leaving Friday. Going through San Francisco en route to Hong Kong was my first stop.
And so who were you going with? Like what group? And then I think you were going with other city officials. And then what were you doing once you got there?
Yeah. So this was part of a group. So there was about 6 mayors from the Midwest that were invited to go on this kind of exchange to the Yangtze River Valley, which is kind of the equivalent of the Mississippi River Valley. And we were invited to go over. We got to visit, this was like through the U.S.-China Heartland Association with coordination with the U.S. State Department. And it's part of a larger thing that the U.S. is trying to do to really bring up collaboration. I'm not going to fix things at a national, federal, international level, but on a local city-to-city level, having some of those relationships around issues we were especially talking about climate impacts. We're both agriculture areas, the Yangtze River Valley and the Mississippi River Valley. So we had a few visits where we were meeting with university officials along the way and the research that's being done to do preventative measures as well as technology advances that they're looking at.
Mayor, we appreciate you joining us, and it was good to see you the other day about the police chief too. I appreciate your time on that.
Yeah, that was a great announcement.
It's huge. It really is, and I'll have, in fact, I'll have more audio on the Eagle at 7:03 from our city manager to Carlin Seawood. I want to ask about the trip as well. Mike Murphy, and I'm sure you've seen the story from ComoBuzz.com. His headline on ComoBuzz.com is this. This is the headline, quote, "Sponsor of Mayor's China trip linked to CCP espionage influence OPS." And he's talking about here the U.S. Heartland China Association. And he is quoting Senator Marco Rubio. Mayor is saying that this is the senator being quoted by Mike Murphy is calling this group a conduit for the Chinese Communist Party's United Front Work Department, which aims to influence key Americans at the subnational level and ultimately undermine America's national interests. End of quote. Have you read Mike's article and any reaction to what he's reporting?
Yeah, I mean, I saw the headline of the blog, but I didn't read the article, to be frank. Mike had shared with me the link for Senator Rubio's link. Looking at it from my experience when over there, I was with the U.S. State Department. I met with the ambassador to China. We talked a little bit about national security. When I met before I went, we met with the U.S. State Department as well as the State Commerce. And one of the things that, they advised us when going over was obviously to be mindful of our technology and cybersecurity. So I didn't take my city cell phone or city laptop or my personal phone. I took a temporary phone just so I'd have access to talk to my parents, or Sheila, the city clerk, could get a hold of me.
Sure.
But in reality, what I saw was really kind of what you're seeing coming out of, the Secretary of State's office and others, where they're talking about building these subnational relationships, because as the two biggest economies, having good relationships, if we can on this subnational level, is only beneficial to us. And in Missouri, you know, it's our fourth largest import market as well as export market is in China. And so I know in meeting with the Missouri State Economic Development Office and talking with them in the Missouri Partnership, you know, thinking about ways that the states are collaborating are obviously going to be good for our economy. So I didn't experience any international spies, but I guess I'll keep an eye out and make sure IT has wiped the phone so that nothing is coming back to Columbia, obviously.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it.
Good morning, Mayor
Yeah,
Buffaloe.
yeah.
I think that there's a lot of
Hey.
discussion in the community about how was emergency relief money decided on, you know, who it would go to and why. Can you give any insight to the listeners of how you guys decided how that emergency relief money was going to be distributed throughout the community?
Clarification, are you talking about the ARPA funds?
The ARPA funds, yes.
Okay, sorry, yeah. Yeah, so when we did the community survey, obviously having input from the community last summer, so 22 summer, and then the focus groups that led from there, they identified the areas that were the most impacted from our areas. From the surveys for funds to go to. You know, at the same time, I know we've been having conversations, obviously, with our employee groups. And so while we were no longer allowed to, starting last spring, to give back pay for those who are our first responders, besides what we did give during the COVID pandemic to our first responders, we have been looking to ways to continue to give additional funds in addition to just my big goal with all of our first responders and especially our city employees is to continue to pay people, increase pay, increase recruitment, and think about ways that we can continue to pay going forward. So that's just something that we're obviously tasked the city manager with coming up with a plan for that.
Thank you.
Now, I know the city has been talking about short-term rentals. I was hoping to get an update on that. And actually, it came up earlier this week, and I think it's interesting because when you see cities start to do this, I was at a libertarian conference, and they started to say, and I think it was specifically around this issue, that, hey, the state should come in and preempt cities on some of these issues and tell cities what they can and can't do. I tend to, I think, prefer local government in its
Me too, Hannah. Me too.
in its purest form. But you know,
wait, I'm not looking at you. This is hard.
but I think so. I mean, give us an update on the short-term rentals. Are you hearing that? Are you getting any pushback from the state or state elected officials? And do you worry? Because I know the state stepped in other arenas. Or do you worry that the state's going to step on the city's toes? And how do you have those conversations?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, first we had a report with proposed kind of like how to do the licensing and regulations from our planning and zoning department and the commission back in October. Planning and zoning should be having their public hearings now, and then they'll come back to city council with any amendments suggested for going forward with that. With your conversation about state preemption, that's obviously always a concern I have. Mainly because, I have local people who serve and advise us, right? So meeting with the Board of Realtors, meeting with my neighborhood associations, meeting with the city staff who will have to implement whatever it is we decide. And those voices to me are really important because they're the ones in the day-to-day of this, right? And so I always appreciate when the state kind of lets us do our own control over that because we're making the decisions with all the information that is local, not over like potential fears of the unknown. With short-term rentals, one of the things that we hear is we hear everything from, concerns over what impact does it have on access to attainable housing? Like, is it affecting the inventory that we have? Other things we have is, how do we know that when people are coming in, there's not any potential for kind of like trafficking? If there's no knowledge that this is a rental unit and there's a lot of turnover, how do the community members know that the people there are just coming to a football game, or is there something else going on? And so I know from a safety perspective, this is something that I'm hearing from my peers in other cities and also have heard here locally, just questions for us to ask on how it would be make sure that these are safe and healthy units to have in our community that also do provide a service. I'm going to ask, I'll tell you, at the city council meeting, whenever we're voting on this, I will ask for a show of hands for how many people have ever stayed in a VRBO or an Airbnb. And I'm expecting every hand will go up. So we know this is something that, is going to happen, but it's just a question of how it's done.
And I think, I think that's good. And in the kind of Columbia updates, I saw an article that Columbia has gotten its first automatic waste collection truck. So I know you've been talking to folks about this. Any updates there on the roll carts and the process as it moves forward? There's even a video on our news partner,
video too.
KMIZ. You can watch the truck in action.
We are I know this is so exciting, right? We've got kids showing up for student groups. No, not yet though. This is one of the things, obviously, that we have tasked. They were allowed to kind of start this last year, but we were like, we really want this to be a mindful rollout over this. So the first of our automated trucks are coming in. I know that staff is kind of practicing the routes to see where it goes. We know some streets are smaller than others, and so that's why we've also have different trucks that are going to be coming in. Some will be smaller for some of those more urban areas in Columbia. One of the things that we'll also be doing is community members received a way to select their size of cart because they're going to pay based on the size of their cart. And so we had that. And so when they start coming in the first of the year,
They've got a pretty good team this year, so I am fired up and excited for their season to get in the swing of things. Also, yesterday, it was not looking super good for F1. John, are you an F1 person?
Well, watch it if the Tigers aren't on. But yeah, no, it's interesting to watch. It's IndyCar for so many years was the open wheel racing in the U.S. with Indy and all that, and Formula One, internationally, it's a big deal.
That's what
I've been sitting here going, what the heck is F1?
Me too, Hannah. No
Okay.
comics. I don't know what it is.
Formula One racing. And I will say you're right, John. I hear about it when I travel, from international folks. They're really excited about it. I didn't know people in the U.S. would be super excited about it. But again,
Ashley and I are obviously very excited.
Huge fans.
Well,
Huge fans.
I didn't know a whole lot about it until I tried to visit Las Vegas while they were setting this up. And they've been working on the strip for more than but it was really locked down about a month ago because they were setting up grandstands and they had to redo the streets. And it just, it was a disaster. It was horrible being there, honestly. And I feel bad saying that. But they had to prepare roads for F1 racing. Apparently it didn't go very well. And so they not only has interest been down and not what they expected. They were I heard rates for rooms were insane, and they were expecting it to be totally packed. And it's basically, I guess, the race, the overall season thing. This race doesn't really matter, so that was one thing. But also, I guess they had their first practice last night, and they were supposed to race for about an hour. They get going, and apparently there was a loose drain cover that someone ran over, and it kind of bumped him, and I think maybe did some damage to the car, and they were checking on him. He didn't wreck necessarily, but they had to call off the whole thing. So to have basically locked the city down and spent all of this time and money preparing, and then to have that go wrong last night.
Did they finish the race?
7 or 8 minutes into their first practice on the streets.
Wow.
And is that something you can just, shore up quickly?
Do you come back from that? Do you
go back and weld the drain cover down or something, manhole. I don't know if that's exactly what it was.
I guess. And my understanding is that Formula One actually has a contract with Las Vegas for 3 years. So this is an annual thing here for a minute. But
they were saying $500 billion deal.
Oh my goodness. So not going super well. And I'm just thinking, for everyone who, I'm thinking in Colombia, right? That would just be, they come in and they take over your city for a month and you can't get anywhere, and then this, right? And then it doesn't go as planned. So we'll see how that relationship shapes up, but certainly not how they expected it to go yesterday. All right, we had a little bit of a scheduling issue, so I think we are still working on and planning
What happened?
I'm blaming Ashley.
What happened?
I don't want to talk about it. It's fine.
No, we are going to be talking with Dr. Tim Roth sometime in the 7 o'clock hour, and we're getting that worked out.
It'll be a surprise for everyone.
Surprise everybody when this works out, guys.
Including Tim.
Including Dr. Roth.
But there's a lot going on with the Southern
There
Boone
is.
School District. They potentially had a forum this week about putting a bond measure on the ballot in April. And of course, then in the 8 o'clock hour, we'll be talking with Lindsey Lopez of the food bank. So many important things going on there, especially with Thanksgiving coming up. And so I think they've been trying to educate folks on what they actually need.
They have. And I don't think it's a food bank specifically, but there's lots of great things going around where there's so many popular items that might be donated, like Hamburger Helper, for example. Well, that seems like an easy donation, but you can't make Hamburger Helper without hamburger or ground beef. So
Fair point.
Lots of things to consider and think about what those really needed items are that they may be short of, or ways that you can help donate and help our local community.
Yep. And
We'll promote our 1-for-1 Zimmer Holiday Food Drive we've got coming up in a couple weeks.
I love it.
And that will be out at the mall, right, John?
It'll be, at the mall, and I think we're doing it at Buckeye on Missouri Boulevard in Jefferson City as well.
Wonderful. So ways to get involved. We're always encouraging our folks, and rather and your thoughts on China and our Columbia mayor going to China. You guys lit up the text line, and I don't know that we can share a lot of what was shared on the text line, Hannah.
Oh, we for sure cannot.
Yes, but we are reading those texts.
Kind of revolved around why'd you come back, though, as I think was kind of the gist of several of the texts.
There you go, John. Thanks for that summary this morning. But we are celebrating a Feel Good Friday. Of course, we are hopefully celebrating a Mizzou win tomorrow. We're very, it's a fun day, right? So I was going to ask you all, is there anything you're particularly feeling good about today, Hannah?
I am feeling good. Last week, I had another little baby nephew that was born.
Oh,
So it's been really fun. I haven't got to meet him yet, but he was a 10-pounder, so he's a chunky little guy. And it's just been really fun to get baby pictures every day on my phone.
I love it.
And I just want to pinch his little cheeks.
Oh, I love that. Well, I want to throw in here really quickly. We will be talking to Dr. Roth. He is confirmed for just at 7:35. So if you were sticking around for that interview, we're excited to speak with him about all of the good things that we can feel good about going on at Southern Boone. Ashley, you've got some stuff to feel good about.
I do. I'm feeling good about our brand new office at Compass Chiropractic and Wellness. If you have not seen the space, please come and look at it. Even if you're not a patient, it's incredible. We're so proud of it. It's definitely a feel-good moment.
I like it. I saw the wallpaper and the florals, and I love, it's beautiful. And you did it yourself.
I did. I just prayed that it all came together, but I did do it myself.
And I think it is an example, and I know I've seen it from the outside. I need to get over and take a look at it inside. But it goes to show you hard work.
Thank you.
Because you've poured your heart and soul into that, and it's not easy.
No,
it's not easy. It's hard. People act like it's easy. It's not.
It's hard, but it's rewarding.
Yeah.
Brian,
congratulations.
Yeah, Brian, anything in particular you're feeling good about today?
I think, the Mizzou basketball team, an amazing performance last night. I didn't get to see it, but obviously did the report. I think the fact that, and I know this Mizzou football game tomorrow is big, and we certainly can talk about it, but we have so many schools in the area that are in the football playoffs. It's hard to get them all in a sportscast. It really is. I feel like I'm leaving some out and leaving some details, and John knows as well. But we've got Blair Oaks, we've got Helias, we've got Jefferson City, the Jays, just 2 wins away from a state championship. They play tomorrow at McDonald County, Tolton, Rockbridge. I'm trying not to leave anybody out, but it's just. For those young men and their cheer squads, just all that's just a lot of work. That started back in the summer. It's not easy, and these games get really, really tough at this point. So these teams coming in, they're coming in, they're playing. For instance, Rockbridge is at DeSmet. That is a team loaded with really good talent, some Division I talent there. Rockbridge has Division I talent too, and you're going to see that in some of these games. Tolton is 11-0. Blair Oaks, we know how good they are. The Jays game is intriguing to me. John knows this because I always think of Jeff City as Class 6. They're now Class 4. McDonald County is a good football team, and it's going to be quite a hike for Jeff City to go down there.
Yeah, they won their first district ever last week,
yeah,
McDonald County.
Yeah, I've been down there, and my God, that is a long drive. I mean, there's no good way to get down there.
It's almost Mississippi.
Yeah,
Right?
It's way down corner of the state.
Well, we were hearing again this morning what you weren't feeling good about, particularly the mayor's trip to China. But we would like to hear what you are feeling good about as we celebrate this Feel Good Friday. You can text us 874-9390. John, what's got you feeling good this Friday?
I'm right there along with Brian with all this, high school district football and that nail-biter 9-second win last night with the basketball Tigers, and now Mizzou looking to be, win out the rest of the regular season in football. It's a good sports weekend on the way.
It really is. And the exposure, there's a story, I wanted to get it on for today, and I've had so much else going on with the police chief that I'll have to wait till maybe Monday. Kip Kendrick and I talked at the Ready annual meeting. This ties in with Mizzou just the other night. And as John just pointed out, that the sports weekend, it's hard to keep up with everything. But I asked, I still call him Representative Commissioner Kendrick. I asked him about, they were on CBS last week, the SEC on CBS, not the CBS Sports Network. I mean, Brad Nessler and Gary were here. Tomorrow it's Joe Tessitore and Jesse Palmer. That used to be the crew that did Monday Night Football. It's ESPN. you basically can't buy that exposure. And he talked about they talked about the teamwork the team played with, but he says this exposure is just invaluable. And I've got he says it more eloquently than me, but I mean, it's a big deal to be on ESPN tomorrow. You're going to see ESPN actually already is in town right now as we speak. They're going to be going over as they normally do to some spaces. I would assume they were at Booch's. Remember Booch's about a month ago? In Booch's, the owner there didn't want me to mention it ahead of time. I don't know that they'll be back at Booch's today.
Because the Wake Up family's so big, he said if you mention it, they're all going to show up, and there's not enough room for all of us.
Exactly. And
enough burgers.
Exactly. He and I honored that request. I said, "Can I mention it afterwards?" He was fine. He was fine with it. But I do know that they're going to be going down to Shakespeare's today and some other places as well. So a lot of exposure for Mizzou, and that's something to be very proud of. And definitely don't take Florida for granted. The Gators are a good team. Good coach, and he's probably on the hot seat right now. His name's Billy Nate.
Had a rugged year.
Billy Nate, exactly, a former Nick Saban assistant. The next two coaches could be battling for their job. So teams generally they'll fight for their coach.
It's okay though. If you get fired, you still get the bag, right? Like you
still
make
get all the money, right?
A ton of money, yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Are they really trying that
but
hard?
they run you out of Waco on a rail, right, Brian?
That's right, exactly.
And Brian, you said something there, and it's like triggered my mind. And I'm like, I don't know what the answer to that question is. You said you still refer to Kip Kendrick as representative sometime. Now he's commissioner. Technically, I would think like representative is a higher position in levels of government, but I saw Scott Fawn had former Senator Engler on his show, and he still refers to him as senator, even though he's no longer in elected office. So I assume the journalist rule is you refer to their current office. But for example, when Kip Kendrick retires, is he Commissioner Kendrick or representative? Like, what are the journalistic rules there?
Just Kip.
Journalistically, I'd say former, when he leaves office, former Boone County Commissioner, former representative. But as a title of courtesy, I still would call him representative. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess in terms of politics, but, he was the ranking Democrat on the Budget Committee. Always comes on. He listens to my scoreboards on Saturdays. He's always been very gracious, answers my questions no matter what they are. Sometimes they're tough issues. Most of the time they're not. But he, I'm not sure which is bigger because it's really a matter of opinion. As a state legislator, a state rep, I don't have the exact salary. Let's say they make $33,000 a year and they get a per diem as well. But a presiding commissioner, those commissioners get paid decent money,
like over like $130,000. I mean, it's a lot of money.
It's six figures, but I mean, you run for that position, and it's a full time position. It's a full time, and they're there at the courthouse, all the time. I've seen them out at various events too, and they're there after hours. But so I'm not sure which one would be. I guess technically, politically, people would think being at the Capitol. I happen to think being a county commissioner is a big deal.
Next time he's on, we should ask him which one he considers. We should box him in and ask him which one he thinks is more important. But I think, that debate rages on as well. I mean, people think governors are, and you hear it from a lot of people. If you're in Congress, you're one of, in the Senate, one of 100 or one of several hundred. And then, and so I think that's why we're seeing so many governors run for president, because you're one of one, right? You're the boss. And I think we've heard that from Parson and other governors saying, it's so much more impactful to really be the head of, your state, as opposed, and you hear from a lot of politicians, well, I want to go to Congress. But yeah, it's hard to get something done. And especially now in this environment, in the state legislature. I would hazard a guess that he thinks being in charge of the county probably is better and more powerful.
And I don't want to speak for him, but I would tend to agree with you. I'm just going to. That would be my guess. I do know the issues before the county, and we'll have, he's inevitably going to face a land use issue. We haven't seen that right now, and I don't know what it will be. I'm just saying down the line, probably that could be somewhat divisive. But the issues as a county commissioner, outside of that mural that he wasn't there for, that was pretty controversial. They tend to be the county, and I find this in Cole County as well. The county commission meetings, although the Cole counties have gotten a little heated over the years, Boone counties have been pretty. Even with Fred Perry there, and he was a Republican, pretty bipartisan, and
really kind of budget focused, haven't they?
Yeah, in about priorities and Channel 17 had a story the other day, and it's about they need to replace the showers at the jail. I mean, that's not necessarily a story that's going to get a lot of people excited, but they have to do that.
You can say it. I mean, my law partner
deal.
was the presiding commissioner down in Cole, and I'm like, that just seems so boring. Like, there's no sexy issues there, right? Like, it's just infrastructure and ambulances and, roads and bridges. And I said, that's one of the last things besides school district that I'd ever, but it's really important work. And if you don't have the infrastructure.
Mark got right in the middle of a big zoning debate back in his era with Cole County.
Yeah.
Yeah. Land
He
use
had some pretty heated things that happened on his watch.
It did. And in Boone County, I'll give you one quick example. Don Stamper, and Don still is around, listens to us. One of the big issues that he had to get involved with was the fairgrounds. Yeah. Now, to our younger people, they won't. That was a huge deal at the time. There were people really upset. I remember being at a county commission, and half the room was on one side, half the room was on the other. It was a big deal at that time, and he angered half the crowd.
The more localer, the more important.
He angered half the crowd. And eventually, I remember him telling me the shelf life of a presiding commissioner, this was years ago, was about 2 to 3 terms. And he eventually was voted out primarily because you take these votes on these land use issues. We just don't have as many of those anymore.
Yeah.
Is the term for that 2 years or 4 years?
A term for a county commissioner is 4.
Is it?
So it's a 4-year term, and Don Stamper was the presiding commissioner. Always gracious, always would talk. But the fairgrounds, it was a big deal. Not nearly as much now.
Well, we want to hear what you're feeling good about. Text us at 573-874-9390. Something that's got me feeling really good today. I got to attend a Veterans Day concert last night at Southern Boone. And so just when you think, when you're feeling really dark and you're like, what is this world coming to? I showed up. All the grandmas and grandpas are in the bleachers. The kids are all decked out in their red, white, and blue, and they are singing all the patriotic songs and clapping for the veterans as they stood, and I felt a renewed sense of faith in our future. So I think Hannah's got some of the songs they sang.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
The story that
Oh, I don't think so.
It's okay. I will begrudgingly forgive you, but I don't know if John will.
It's not my call.
Stephanie, I know you've said before, you've shared on the show, it's been a year or so maybe, that your daughters had gotten some hamsters.
It did not go well.
It didn't? What happened?
The first one was.
Oh, so there was more than one.
There were two, and they lasted, I think, less than a month between the both of them.
Did they die?
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
Well, hamsters are actually what's hot with Hannah. Because I came across this clip here. It's a longer clip, but I feel like it's important to share with the Wake Up family today.
Okay.
Did you hear what they're talking about now? So hamsters.
Because I'm a victim.
Did you ever have a hamster?
Yeah, I did.
People are just finding out that they hibernate. So they're thinking their frozen hamster that's not moving is dead. And they freak out and they go, oh my God, my hamster just died. But they didn't know that they like hibernate and they won't move.
Okay.
Yeah, my hamster was cold.
So was mine.
It wasn't like limp.
Yes. And she goes, we were going to bury him, but, and she goes, and he starts moving.
There's no.
Alive. And then I was thinking back to my hamster. He died in the winter. We kept him in the basement and it was probably cold.
Buried him alive, you monster.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
So, just a little PSA. If anyone listening right now has a hamster, or maybe their kiddos have a hamster,
Or they're Stephanie's kids.
Oh
yeah,
no.
you know, we're heading into some colder weather. So, if your hamster tries to kick the bucket this winter, you might just want to. You might just want to double check before you bury them in the backyard.
Did yours die in the winter,
Put him near
Stephanie?
the space heater.
Yeah.
I think mine did die in the winter. Now
Wasn't its name Nacho?
I don't remember. One of them's name was like ice cream, I think.
Not your time to die.
The first one, though, this is how bad it is. There's actually a return policy on the hamster if it dies.
Take it in dead in a
we
bag?
took the dead hamster back
Because
to the
they
pet
know that
store.
they're not really dead.
Yeah, they just thaw them out and sell them to the next guy.
Maybe that's it. But we did return the first one, so I feel good at least that maybe he got a second life. And he didn't
I can only
get buried
imagine you
alive.
taking it back to the pet store in like a paper bag, like the hamster died.
Can I return
change
this?
please?
You know, hamsters that kick the bucket after a couple weeks, that's really a pretty good business model. It's like my buddy who used to raise tropical fish in the trade. He says these things could live to be 100 years old if they were not genetically engineered to, die in a couple weeks.
For sure.
I'm just wondering how many Wake Up Mid-Missouri family members right now are listening and going, oh no. Like, how many hamsters have I buried alive? Or, just thrown in the trash can?
So sad.
They were just
So
a little sleepy.
I do have a fish a concert last night under the direction of Mr. Hennessy. It's always a pleasure to watch that, and I know my parents and my dad, who's a Marine, really appreciated them all decked out in their red, white, and blue, singing some really patriotic songs. Marissa, you all are texting us what you're feeling good about. 573-874-9390. Marissa saying she's got all of next week off and she gets to spend the entire week with her family.
I'm feeling good about the fact that I've never buried a hamster alive. Feeling pretty good about that one.
You should feel good about that. All right, but I forgot to mention we are doing winners and losers at 8:30. So if you are texting us, not only tell us why you're feeling good, but text us your nominations for winners and losers of the week. But for now, I'm going to blame this on Ashley. We had a little bit of a scheduling.
This was my fault, guys.
Snafu, but we are pleased to be joined by the Superintendent of Schools for Southern Boone, Dr. Tim Roth.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Roth. I apologize about the time confusion. I was trying to multitask, and that did not work out well for either one of us, so I apologize.
Happy to be here.
Good. So lots of questions. I live in Southern Boone, so does Stephanie. It's such an amazing community. It is known that people move to our community for the school district, an incredible school district. So Tuesday, you guys had a meeting about the bond issue for maybe expansion of the high school. So I was hoping that maybe you could talk a little bit about that, what that expansion entails, and if that bond is a continuation of the previous bond or if this will be a new bond that would be issued.
Sure, yes. And so I have to say it did make my heart happy this morning as I listened to our fourth graders on the radio from our Veterans musical last night. So they did a great job, and thank you for sharing that for sure. Mm-hmm. As you know, as our community grows, so do our schools. And so with that, we have been very fortunate with our voter turnout and support of our school district. With, we're just finishing up the new construction and renovations at the middle school to accommodate our larger cohort sizes. And so I think as our voters and patrons, our students and families visit the middle school for different events, I think you'll agree that that's an amazing facility and performing quite nicely for the needs of our students there. And so then right now we are also working on our stadium project that provides new turf, new track facilities, additional seating for that area. And so that project will be finishing up this spring. And so very happy that we're able to provide that for our classes and our students there. Our next needs as we look at our student enrollment, student growth, and curricular needs will be focused at the high school. And so right now we are in the planning stages and have been for quite some time for a 2024 April no tax increased bond issue for new construction and improvements at the high school.
Go ahead, Doctor. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And so with that, we are looking to improve our spaces for VOAG education and arts so that they are connected directly to the high school. Over the past several years, as we try to improve our safety across our district, currently our high school students have to walk across the parking lot and go to a different building for their ag education courses. And then we also have some high school art courses that are housed in the middle school. And so we would like to really bring them all under one roof.
Yeah, I appreciate the details on that, Doctor. I know it's being talked about right now, but the decision is going to have to be made fairly soon. So roughly how many millions of dollars are we talking about? I know it probably could be tweaked a little bit, but roughly what are we looking at on that? And how many students currently are at that school? Because Ashland's still one of the fastest, as Dr. Emmel just pointed out, one of the fastest growing towns in the entire state, much less mid-Missouri. So the number, I'd like to get the latest number ballpark if you've got it for the high school and in the district in general.
Absolutely. And so as our district continues to grow, we are a little over a 2,000 student district right now. And so we've seen a lot of growth over the last decade. And so that's why you see our schools across the district to continue to grow. And so now it's time for our high school to start growing as well. And so the 2024 bond issue will be a $12 million request of our voters. It is a no tax increase. And what we are seeing right now with student enrollment, we are at approximately 525 students at the high school. And over the next 7 to 10 years, we think we'll start seeing that enrollment at the high school move up to approximately 675 to 700 students.
Wow. Again, that growth is staggering. Thank you, Doctor.
We are speaking with Dr. Tim Roth, who is the superintendent of Southern Boone Schools.
Tim, recently when we got the press release from our former coworker and your employee, our friend Matt Sharp, regarding that couple of $100,000 you got for the school safety grant, could you flesh out exactly what that money will be used for? And the second part of that is, well, that was something the governor supported in his budget. Is there a potential for more of that money on the way?
Well, we are very happy with the governor in supporting the school safety grants across the state of Missouri. And so the Southern Boone School District did apply for the school safety grant. We're awarded $200,000 towards safety projects across our district. And so with that, we will be able to increase security cameras across the district. We will be able to put safety glass film on many of our windows across the district. We will also be able to increase our safety at our main entrances, buzz-in systems for our students, different facility improvements with our doors as well, so that they remain secure in the time of need. Yes.
Dr. Roth, with all the expansion, so living in Southern Boone, we all know that traffic is a nightmare in the mornings, going to and from all the schools, dropping off. I've got 2 drop-offs each morning at the primary and middle school. With the expansion and construction at the high school, are there plans in there to maybe have another road that goes through to lessen traffic in those areas? Or how does the district plan to deal with some of that high traffic?
So I think as we do see increased enrollment, we do see a lot more cars and trucks on the road along with buses. And so part of the process with the bond issues at the high school will be to increase parking in that facility, also looking at the entrances and exits for that facility, fire lanes, that type of thing, and then also working with the city to see if any of those entrances and exits will align with new roads that are going into the neighborhoods. Yes.
Now, I've been getting a lot of questions because people drive up or down 63 and they see that beautiful new Rankin building right there on the side. And people are like, well, it looks done. What's going on over there? So what's the latest on Rankin Tech?
So the latest on Rankin, we are happy to be in partnership with Rankin and regional businesses across our region for supporting adult education and also education at the high school in the technical areas. And so we have just finished up with the Rankin construction. And so now we are working with Rankin to start classes this winter, I'll say spring semester in January. And so I know they are heavily involved with advisory committees right now, working on the curriculum we've got the overall building constructed. And so now they are working on bringing equipment into the facility so that they'll be ready for their students in January.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful building if you drive by on 63 North on that right side of the road. And I saw last week, Dr. Roth, that there are 2 roads now that are going in to connect that neighborhood to Rankin where those students will not have to cross over the highway or J-turn. Is that accurate?
So the city is building Perry Avenue out currently. And so that Perry Avenue construction should finish up before Christmas. And then that also does mean that you will not have to drive down 63 and use that J-turn to get to Rankin if you were headed southbound. And so that will be just great for us, for our students, as we get to Rankin, a much more easier route. Yes.
So as far as the students go, are there going to be actual high schoolers that are going over to Rankin to get that tech ed, or are you expecting, some students to graduate early, or they go, they have to complete high school and then go to Rankin?
So I think there are opportunities for students who are interested in attending Rankin that they can attend as high school juniors or seniors and be able to progress through the curriculum there and graduate with certificated programs. Yes.
And of course, I think the other Rankin campuses are pretty big in adult education. Mm-hmm. So, if I'm looking to make a career change or a pivot, that's something I would be able to do as an adult.
Absolutely. Rankin does support and program a lot of adult education programs. And so I know that they are working with regional companies, regional businesses to offerings need to happen here in Central Missouri to help adults and their families in the education process as well. There have been discovery days, increased enrollment opportunities for families in our region as well to participate in the Rankin experience.
Great. So I'm going to shift back to the middle school. So Dr. Roth, you've talked about the expansion of the middle school. You combine those two buildings where like they don't have to cross in between like they used to. They'd have to actually go outside to go to the other building. And it's a beautiful facility. So I will say, like my daughter was in 5th grade last year. I was not a huge proponent of 5th grade being in the middle school, but it worked out really well. Do you want to explain a little bit to those new parents for next year with 5th grade of how you're keeping the separation between 5th and 8th grade? Because there's a lot of life experience that happens there, and how that transition is helping them get ready for the 6th and 7th grade.
Sure. And so, yes, so 5th grade, this is the second year that 5th grade is in the middle school. Middle school for us would be 5th grade through 8th grade. And so when you look at the design of that building, we basically have a 5th and 6th grade pod on the south side, and then we have a 7th and 8th grade pod on the north side of that building. And then in the middle would be where you find your common spaces with the library, gymnasium, cafeteria, those types of areas, STEM areas. And so we really, our middle school team works to make sure that, 5th and 6th grade have their own schedules, have their own teams of teachers that they work with. And same thing for 7th and 8th grade. When we look at even down to lunchtime, we do have each grade level has their own lunchtime. Teachers are there supervising. And so it's if you are able to visit and watch that process, it's very interesting to watch how different grade levels shift throughout the building and stay with their teachers as they do that, especially in 5th grade.
The only other thing I would add, and it just very, very good information. I'm glad we got that information about Rankin and the road as well. I want to let people know, I know you referenced the football and the soccer field. That was, as you pointed out, approved by the voters, $3 million bond issue back in 2022. And, Doctor, just to let people know as well, this proposal, this $12 million proposal you're talking about that potentially could be on the April ballot, it would require a 4/7 majority, just to let people know that as well. It's not a simple majority. It's 4/7 under state law.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Roth. We appreciate all the information this morning.
Absolutely. Happy to visit with you.
All right. John, I'm really hoping that we are not going to be talking about burying animals alive.
yes, another fossilized McDonald's cheeseburger. This one appeared perfectly preserved after sitting in a cart trunk. Cameron Hollins says, I'll never eat McDonald's again. He's a Brisbane, Australia-based mechanic. Found the rot-resistant burger tucked behind the spare tire in the trunk of a 12-year-old Camry he was working on. He figured it was probably 3 years old due to the fact that it looked like the spare had never been moved before. Said it was shockingly intact, as if it was fresh from McDonald's, save one minor detail. It was rock hard like cement, as they say down under. He said that it only had a bit of mold, hadn't been eaten by ants in the trunk, and promptly hit it with a hammer, and said the meat puck shattered like an old bathroom tile. Not the first time McDonald's has demonstrated its agelessness. 2022, a woman in D.C. found a cheeseburger she kept for 5 years from Mickey D's, same as when she bought it, except for being rock hard. And she suggested maybe she could use it on the as bling on the new Mickey D Crocs that are out there. So there's the rest of that undigestible story.
I'm kind of sad.
Like most of them.
I'm kind of sad Randy Tobler's not here, because yesterday he was telling us about how he likes to eat leftovers out of the fridge, maybe like week-old leftovers. We need to ask him, what's the longest you've ever like wrapped up a McDonald's cheeseburger and eaten it?
Well, so here locally we have a Wake Up family member. Stephanie, I don't know if this is before your time on the show or not.
I think so.
But I believe his name is Steven, and he's kept a McDonald's cheeseburger for, I want to say like 10 years or something like that.
Steven,
I could
text in, let us know.
Yeah, I could be way off on that one, but it's a very long time. And he sends us pictures every once in a while of it, and John's right, it looks almost fresh. It almost looks like you could pick it up and eat it now.
Except there's a meat puck. I like that. Meat puck.
Minor details.
Might lose a filling over it, but other than that, it probably wouldn't hurt you, right?
Hard as a rock. One of my favorite like reels and TikToks that I've seen lately is because, I think we get a lot of grief in America for eating, maybe not the most nutritious food and our fast food. Have you seen these ones, Hannah, where they have, I think they're teens from the UK, and they're all like private school kids. So they're sitting at a table and they've all got like blue cardigan things on, and they give them like their first like McDonald's cheeseburger, or I've seen a lot with Taco Bell, and they're like, this is delicious.
Well, so my husband had a friend from Australia in town. It was his first time to the U.S. ever, and he was in for about a month, and so we had a lot of fun, showing him very stereotypically like American things. And they took him to McDonald's one of his first nights, and he said a lot of the food is the same, but he was stunned at how big our French fries are.
Yeah, the portion sizes.
He said our like medium-sized fry is what they would consider a large in Australia, and he didn't have a lot of culture shocks while he was over here, but that was one of the biggest ones, was the French fries.
And my thing is, I can't, like, some of the drinks, you're like, it won't even fit in your cup holder. I'm like, this is not a large, this is a bucket. Like this,
half a gallon to go.
He said the Route 44 drink size and McDonald's French fries were two of his biggest culture shocks.
Glad to be with you. Love that lead up, TGIF for sure. So what we're seeing going into the Thanksgiving holiday is more people than ever that are just struggling. And exactly to the point that you're speaking of, everything costs more. And that's why we're seeing additional people who are finding themselves in need of food. Part of the role of the food bank is to provide that food at no cost to neighbors in need. So it frees up their other resources for needs such as childcare, transportation, medical care, utilities, the list goes on.
Are you seeing an increase in the folks that are requesting help?
We definitely are. So we just opened the food bank market a few weeks ago, and that replaced the central pantry on Big Bear Boulevard. We actually have owned and operated and staffed that pantry for more than a decade, and wanted to make an intentional shift into this new space that's visible and accessible on the business loop. But opening day, we served about 350 families, and that's a big number. Why that number matters is that at the height of the pandemic a few years ago, the highest number of families we ever served in one day was 370. And we've seen those numbers remain consistent in these first few weeks of us being open in this new space. So the need is real, hunger is real, and it is prevalent right here in our community.
You know, Lindsey, thank you. Thank you for your service. And congratulations. Lindsey is celebrating her 9-year anniversary right now. So congratulations.
Oh, Brian, thank you for remembering.
Yes,
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I was over there with you about the food bank market. It was wonderful. You mentioned, and Stephanie had a good question about the increased need. I know that I've talked to food service employees, I won't say where, but to people that work in the food, they work, some of them 1 and 2 jobs, they have children, and I see some of them walking up and down Clark Lane here in Columbia, and they don't have a car. They have to bring the children along to go get their groceries. They're having a hard time. They sometimes are working 1 or 2 jobs. It's very hard for them. So whether it's them or somebody out there needs some help, especially during the holidays, what do they do? Do they just show up at this food bank market, or what would you recommend they do? Because I know there are people listening that probably are going to need help this holiday season.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll give you an example. So I was at the market on opening day. We changed processes, and every time that you're doing something new, you want to make sure that everything rolls out the way that you anticipate. And a woman walked in, and I thought, gosh, I know her. How do I know her? And then I remembered she had waited on me a couple of times recently at a very well-known restaurant. And I remember being so impressed by her and thinking, gosh, she is such a hard worker and so friendly. And she had to humble herself to come in to the market to receive food. And of course, I didn't say anything to her about it, but I think that just speaks to one more example of how these are people who are right here living and working in our community, interacting with us every day, and they just don't have enough to be able to make ends meet. So for anybody who is listening, or for someone who's listening who knows of somebody who may need help, send them to the food bank market if they are here in Columbia. And, we're going to ask you a few questions there about if you have an address, how many people live in your household, how many are under the age of 18. If you're unhoused, it's okay too. We're still going to provide you food. Those are just numbers that we track for grant funding purposes and that sort of thing. Beyond that, we just want to be able to get food into the hands of people who need it. And of course, we're providing food at no cost to around 30 different partner agencies here in Boone County alone.
Yeah, and I would just add to people that are listening, because we're going out over Jefferson City, we're going out in Fulton, we're going out in Booneville. The people in Columbia may know, but just for everybody that knows, the food bank market that Lindsey is referring to is on Columbia's business loop. It's right near Firestone. That used to be an Aldi's, and at one time it was a Mosier's, but you can't miss it. It's down there. Lindsey, thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
Lindsey, we're looking forward to a little less than a month. We'll be doing our 1-for-1 Zimmer Communications Holiday Food Drive with you guys, and I know that's a big fun for us, and we team up with the firefighters to do that every year. I think one thing that you've pointed out to us during the food drive that a lot of people aren't aware of, you work with, a couple hundred schools to feed kids too, don't you?
We do. So the food bank actually covers a 32 county service area, about 19,000 square miles and roughly 1/3 of the state. So it's a very big territory, very rural communities that we're going into as well. And we do that by providing food at no cost to 145 partner agencies and 197 schools. And for schools in particular, we're providing that support through our Buddy Pack program and our school pantry program, which is really, really growing.
Lindsey, so talking about coming up with the holidays, I know that the food bank is so impactful. And I mean, just so I understand some of how it works is, do you take donations? Is most of the food that you receive through grants? Because I'm seeing all kinds of great things of whenever you are donating food for the holiday season, keep in mind, if you donate a cake mix, they need eggs to make that cake. If you're donating some of those pre-made things, they may need hamburger to go with it as well. How does that work?
You're exactly right. So the food bank annually acquires and distributes around 27 million pounds of food with a wholesale value of more than $50 million. So we're not a small nonprofit. We're actually a very large charitable business. We always will welcome gifts of food to the food bank. Certainly we can do much more with the dollars. For every dollar that we take in because of our purchasing power, it helps us provide the equivalent of at least 4 meals to people in need. So any way that people want to help, I would encourage them to go to our website, that's sharefoodbringhope.org, and that will give them all of the variety of opportunities that they can support the food bank and the neighbors that we serve.
Yeah, I know a lot of families who around the holidays want to do some hands-on volunteering, especially families with kids. Are there those opportunities at the food bank as well?
Definitely, and I appreciate you asking. Volunteers are absolutely critical to the work that we do, so much so that last year almost 10,000 people helped the food bank in some capacity. So they can help us in our volunteer room at our main facility on Vandiver Drive. They can help us at the new food bank market. We have 22 mobile pantry distributions that we do monthly throughout our service area. We need volunteers there. At events, upcoming food and fun drives, 1 for 1 that's coming up in mid-December, partnering with Zimmer, we certainly will need volunteers there. And I would put the call out to corporate partners. That's a really great way for them to come out and be represented with their brand and have some fun and, really help so many people in the community over the holiday season.
Are the needs different as we approach Thanksgiving, separate and apart from Christmas season?
No, I appreciate that question too, because the food bank gets a lot of press, quite honestly, over the holiday season because people are in the spirit of giving. What we like to say here, though, is that hunger knows no season. So once we get to January and February, we will still see the same number of people who are experiencing need. That will continue. And just if there's one takeaway from your listeners today, I hope it's that they continue to remember the food bank and the neighbors we serve well into next year.
So, Lindsey, recently I did not know that the main location for you was off of Vandiver, and that is really impressive. You gave the number earlier of how many pounds of food come in, but how many trucks come in and out of that facility every day to help meet those needs of our community and surrounding areas?
So, yes, it is deceiving. Most people don't realize what a large organization we are. So we actually have right now about 28 vehicles in our fleet, and then we're working with carriers that are coming from all over the country. So in terms of your question, how many trucks we're taking in, it's going to be 90 to 100 trucks that we're taking in over the course of a month. Wow. If you looked at our warehouse right now, if we were at full capacity, which we're not, but full capacity would represent about 2 million pounds of food at any given time. So in effect, our team is completely turning our warehouse on Vandiver Drive over about every 2.5 weeks.
Wow. Now I know nationally I've seen some articles about how giving and charitable contributions are just down overall. Are you all seeing the impact of that here locally?
We have seen the numbers continue to be fairly steady in terms of giving. And I think what that really comes down to is that people know that we can stretch the dollars a long, long way. We're a good investment for those dollars that they contribute. But at the same time, I think everybody can understand or think about how their lives would be different if they were lacking access to food for themselves and for their families. I think that really resonates, that message. And so we would just encourage people, even if it's a small amount that they have to give over the holiday season, we can stretch those dollars a long, long way.
Well, we appreciate you joining us and all of the work you're doing here in mid-Missouri. And of course, we will be keeping the Wake Up family apprised and updated about the food drive that's coming up.
We appreciate you all so much. Zimmer is a tremendous partner, and thanks for all that you do for so many that we help.
Thanks, Lindsey. All right, coming up next, we have the Morning Bell. And Hannah, I can't believe we let this holiday pass, but somebody is celebrating. And so that is your market update for the Morning Bell. Now, I can't believe we almost let this holiday pass. It really is a holiday, Hannah.
Well, yeah, it's Christmas time, but other than that.
No, it is not Christmas time. It's Thanksgiving time. No holiday Are you listening to Christmas music yet?
I am. Actually, one of our sister stations here in the building has flipped over to Christmas music, and so that's what's been playing in the break room, and I'm so excited.
All Christmas.
Smells like pumpkin spice in there.
With just a hint of peppermint.
There you go.
My girls are learning on the piano how to play Christmas carols, and so I have enjoyed hearing that over the last couple of weeks. But this big holiday that we are actually celebrating this week, it has been 1 year officially of Chat GPT. Oh. It's hard to believe, right? I remember when we first started playing with it on Wake Up, and what you guys were having it right like Brandon's dating profile or something, right?
No, I think that was him.
Resignation letter from the spokesman for the Columbia Public Schools. ChatGPT went after that one.
That's not where I thought you were going with that, John.
We've had a lot of fun with it, and it's kind of like I think of it really as kind of a toy, like something silly. And I've tried to use it a little bit I don't use it on the legal side at all, but like for the trolleys, I put in like, hey, can you give me a title or like a slogan or whatever? And I know just this week, my husband was like, we've got these new trucks at work and we want to put a slogan on. I, suggested Booty Patrol from our fun story, but that didn't go over well for the last guys. So they're like, maybe we'll put it into Chat GPT and see what it spits out. And so I'm wondering, like, especially here in Mid-Mo, are people actually using it for business? Because I really haven't had a really good application. But Ashley, you're saying that you use it.
I use it weekly. I use it for so many things. It saves my world. So ChatGPT, you have to be really specific on the things you want. So I've used it for content. I've used it for different policies and procedures with the office where I know what I need, but I need a little bit more specific. And then you can ask ideas like, what do other people use? So you can get those ideas. But you have to be really specific on what your wants and needs are. And then you just copy that document into a Word, and then you start editing it to make it fit your word style and your specific needs for your office, etc.
Yeah, the way that I've used it a couple times is like if I have writer's block on something or I have no idea where to start, I'll at least use ChatGPT to get some ideas to kind of get the juices flowing, and then I can kind of use it for inspiration. I would never take it verbatim because some of the stuff that it gives you is still way out there.
Oh yeah, Hannah's right on the money ChatGPT bio that it generated that time.
Yeah, that I was a part of some, black journalism club. And I had a journalism degree.
And multiple kids.
Yeah.
Where does it come up with this stuff? Well, and so what I'm hearing from you, Hannah and Ashley, in that you kind of use it to generate your rough draft. Now, I've also heard that if you have a draft already that you like but could be improved, you can drop in your whole draft, and it will kind of clean up the grammar and kind of make it either, and you can tell it like, well, I need this to be more persuasive or more serious or more fun, and it can kind of like change the voice of a piece that you're working on.
Yeah, it'll even create charts for you.
Charts?
Yeah, so I will say put into a chart these things and it will create it. It does not always copy and paste it into a Word document or something else where you can do it, but it does some crazy stuff, and it saves me a lot of time, which time is always my enemy. I never have enough time to do all the things.
Yes, there are a lot of things that your work probably ChatGPT can't do.
There's a lot of things it cannot do, but there's a lot of things it can do.
All right. Well, I think it's really exciting. It's been around for a year. I think that's a big milestone. And I hope, as we continue, we can talk about ways to apply it in your own business because, the more time we have, the better, I think. And so I'm always looking for little shortcuts that can save me time. And I think we've got some fun games planned in the future for Wake Up and ChatGPT. You're
That's the second time I've done that this week.
We like to nominate each other. Hannah, of course, also is getting a nomination for loser for not wearing a red shirt and only wearing a shirt with red writing on it. And of course, I think I got nominated off air earlier because I had a bad typo.
Oh, I didn't know if you were going to expose yourself.
The show clock. You can expose me, I guess.
I told Stephanie I normally wouldn't laugh at typos or like nitpick too hard because I do the same thing. But she spelled like Boone wrong, as in Southern Boone. And the fact that she lives there, I was like, that's kind of like spelling your name wrong.
I was in a hurry. I'm going to claim that. But also, it's like about schools, and I had a
Southern Bone in Ashland, huh?
All right, I'm going to nominate listener Ron. He texted us a funny meme. He said, the most expensive vehicle to operate in 2023, and it's a shopping cart. And I think
that's the truth.
That is certainly the truth. Brian, who are your winners and losers of the week?
That shopping cart thing's going to be tough to beat. That was a good one. I've got three. I had Dr. Michael Williams here in town is a doctor. You probably know him, and he had to go in for a procedure. Could not have been more professional, and I know he's a listener here to 93.9 The Eagle, so and to KWS as well. So, Doctor, thank you for that. Second one is James Gray. James Gray is out in the community every day. I saw him at the police chief announcement. He's always at homicide scenes. He's always doing what he can with at-risk young people, and want to give him a shout-out. We have him on the air from time to time and does a great job. And last but not least, I had a chance to meet, it'd be like my mother meeting James Gandolfini. She was a big Sopranos fan. I got to meet Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson last week from CBS, and I've got it up on my Twitter page. I was so excited to meet them. They could not have been more gracious. But I had a lot of help getting over. I lined it up with Brad to get the thing done. I met him over at their bus, but the bus was way over on the other side of the stadium. They've had a lot more construction since the last time I was over there. And the gentleman that provides the food service, I believe his name is Tim, was in a golf cart, kind enough to.
You hitched a ride?
I hitched a ride in a golf cart. He offered it. He offered it. I believe he said it's Tim. He provides the food service, and I told him I'd give him a shout out. He said they've cut their food prices down at Mizzou, and they have, but thank you for getting me on that golf cart, because that would have been such a hike to get over. So to Tim, thank you for your ride on the golf cart to go meet Brett Nessler and Gary Daniels.
That's the most Brian Hauswirth thing to ever happen. Like for him to sweet talk his way onto a golf cart to get some valet service. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, might have been might have been a Country Kitchen golf cart or Bob Evans golf cart.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but they were great, so thank you.
I do have a nomination for Loser of the Week. Hannah, I think you've got her queued up, and I hate to do it because I'm a big fan, but man, she really had a rough week.
She stepped in it.
Every person on social media should be verified by their name. That's, first of all, it's a national security threat. When you do that, all of a sudden, people have to stand by what they say, and it gets rid of the Russian bots, the Iranian bots, and the Chinese bots. And then you're going to get some civility when people know their name is next to what they say.
Nikki Haley taking aim at the First Amendment and anonymous speech, and just wasn't a good week for her, forgetting all about the Federalist Papers and folks who write under pseudonyms and our freedom, and sounding like she's straight from China or something. I don't know. That was really weird, and she even later doubled down on some of those comments, so I think she's going to have to figure that out. I think the next debate, I think is December 6th, and I don't know how many people are even going to qualify because their numbers are so low, but she actually, I think in New Hampshire, is polling pretty well, but she's going to have to figure that position out if she's going to want to get the support of a lot of folks. So, John, who do you got for winners and losers?
Well, Brian got us rolling on Missouri football and all. So, cornerback Chris Abrams-Drain, a semifinalist for the Bednarik Award for Outstanding Defensive Player of the Year. Also a semifinalist for the Jim Thorpe Award. Luther Burden III, semifinalist for the Maxwell Award, which is a really big deal. Collegiate Player of the Year. And one loser of the week, the Fulton man, who faces charges after allegedly fighting with Columbia police officers after he decided to get drunk, get in a fight at the American Legion Hall on Veterans Day evening in Columbia.
Exactly.
Big loser there. All right, Ashley, you got winners and losers?
I have two winners. My first one is Mr. Tillman at Southern Boone, since we're on a Southern Boone kick. Teaches at the middle school. I've asked for some help the last couple of weeks, and he is incredible. Has followed through with everything that I have needed. So thank you so much, Mr. Tillman. And then my other winner is Coach Gates. I was telling Stephanie this morning about my personal experience meeting him and all the cool things he does in our community. So he gets out there, he tells his personal story, and he really encourages young men to do their best, to be polite and respectful. Recently, he pulled a group of high school students for homecoming aside, got pictures with all these young men, and then said, hey, let's be respectful to your dates tonight. Really a stand-up person. So congratulations, Coach Gates.
That's pretty
and
impressive.
A big night last night for him. They were down by 20?
With 11 minutes to go, down by 20, and came back to win it. That's almost that won't go over well in Minneapolis. But exactly. It'll certainly go over well here.
Too bad, Golden Gophers fans.
Right.
Sucks to suck.
Hannah, and you've got some winners and losers, don't you?
I do. So starting off with my losers of the week, anyone that's ever accidentally buried a hamster that they thought was dead but was in fact hibernating, covered that one in What's Hot with Hannah this morning. And as we're heading into winter, any hamster owners out there, you might just keep that in mind. If they get too cold, they go into hibernation, but they're not dead.
Not to mention any names, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Before you bury the little furry guy, you might just, warm him up and see if he is, in fact, still kicking. My winner of the week. So the Philadelphia Eagles and the Chiefs are facing off Monday night, and I believe Taylor Swift is going to be there with her parents, which is a big development. But the Philadelphia Eagles, they have released their second Christmas album, which is kind of funny. And featured on one of the tracks, of course, is the Kelsey brothers. And here is a clip of their little duet together.
You were handsome, you were pretty, you're the king of South Philly. When the band finished playing, they howled out for more. The leathers were swinging, all the drums they were singing. We fought on a corner, then danced through the night.
That kind of sounds
It's
like
kind of cute.
That sounds more like an Irish drinking song than like a Christmas song. What are they up to?
I don't know.
Dropkick Murphy's apologies there.
Right? The song is out on streaming platforms, so if you want to go check it out, I think the Swifties are trying to boost it up the charts. Because
they are.
Because they're
They
big.
need Taylor on harmonies is what they need.
That's what I'm
Right?
thinking. When are we going to get a duet between the couple? Wouldn't that be exciting? They've got like really similar and good dance moves, even Travis Kelce. But we need to get them singing together, don't you think?
That is real. That song that Hannah just played there, you're right. It sounded like something you'd hear, let's say, Patty Malone's in Jefferson City. There have been fans, I've seen this on Twitter, some fans really want to see like a split screen on the TV, the game on one half, and then they'd like Taylor. I've seen this at least once.
With her ketchup and her ranch dressing.
Well, they've like the camera on her at all times.
I think she would not like that.
I don't know. Is that what the public wants? I don't know.
I think they do. And we almost had the opposite of that this last weekend when Travis went to Argentina, because all I saw, I didn't see much of Taylor on stage. All I saw was the split screen of Travis watching Taylor and he was just, and people
with her dad.
With her dad. And they point out one thing I saw, he is smiling the entire time,
Singing
super
along.
engaged. He never has his phone out. He never looks distracted. He's not like really, he's kind of mugging for the camera, but he's talking to Mr. Swift, but he's not really doing anything else. And they're like, that is a long show. It is 3 full hours. And he just, every second people captured of him, and they captured a lot. He is just looking like he is having the time of his life.
Did you see the clip where he accidentally left Mr. Swift hanging for a high five? I believe it was, Taylor had changed one of the lyrics in her song to include the guy on the Chiefs, which of course is Travis. And Travis didn't know it was coming. No one in the crowd knew it was coming. And so they got a video of Travis's reaction. And to the left of him, you can see that Mr. Swift has his hand raised high for a high five, like, attaboy. And Travis just doesn't see it and leaves him hanging, and it's kind of awkward. But
that is the most embarrassing thing when you're trying to give. But I'm okay. But this happened to me recently too, and I'm not sure what is more embarrassing: if you're the ones being like high five and you get left hanging, or what if has anyone ever like made a motion and you think they're trying to give you a high five? You go to high five them and they're like, what are you doing?
Why are you touching me?
I think it's worse. The second way. I was horribly embarrassed. Okay, I have some other winners before we move into leftovers, but I know we talk a lot about our small businesses. We've had an opportunity this week. If you missed it, we've talked with our Columbia Chamber of Commerce president, and just it's been a rough season for small businesses. And I know, having worked with the Downtown Association, we've got a lot of vacancies in downtown Jefferson City. I was really excited to spend some time in downtown Columbia last week with the Main Street Summit and see all of the action there. But I think just over the last couple weeks, John, I've seen some new businesses opening in downtown Jefferson City. I read about, I think there's a bookstore coming. There's a little new boutique kind of over near where the library is. And then I know our friends from Coffee Zone are opening a new little place as well. So have you heard of any others?
I heard there's actually the long vacant Saffy's building on High Street now has, I think, a quilting company in there.
Perfect. Well, I just think that's so exciting, and I have been worried a little bit over the last year or so, seeing a lot of our businesses close and leave and seeing some of those vacancies. So to get that flurry of activity, I think is really exciting, especially as we head into the legislative session. I know that's having all of those people in town is so important for the vibrancy of downtown. So, if for all those people who are willing to kind of hang out a shingle, like Dr. Ashley, build a new office and put together, make those investments in our community, I think they are my winners of the week for this week.
Yeah, I would add one thing. You're absolutely right. And downtown Columbia has its problems, and they have a lot more businesses, but there are issues there as well that the authorities have tried to address. We've touched on some of those on the air. I would say one thing. There was a lawmaker, John and I remember covering it several years ago. He filed a bill to make the high five the official Missouri greeting. And he was dead serious. It was not a joke. His name was Courtney Curtis. He was from Ferguson, and he was dead serious. And he believes that's the best. The bill got a hearing and never went anywhere.
That's right. He was outvoted by the fist bump crowd at the
he
Capitol.
was left hanging.
Let's bring that bill back. I know we've got some legislators listening. I want the high five. I mean, we have like an official turtle, official plant.
The official state bird is the mosquito. I mean,
definitely
sliced bread.
Yes, and we have official animals, all sorts of stuff. I think it's high time for a official state greeting. I like it. All right, up next, we are going to have to get into our leftovers, into that fridge. We've got some things that we who started just stealing checks out of the mail. And Hannah, do you know what a check is, Hannah?
Yes, I used to work in a bank.
Do you know that people sometimes send them in the mail?
Yes.
Okay. Well, apparently, maybe you want to be careful about that because they said she took 21 checks, like more than $5,000, and actually took a check from a poor grandmother who was mailing birthday money to her grandson. This grandma also was sending like $500. So, if you're out there, grandma, my long lost grandma who wants to mail me $500 on my birthday.
Hey, Grandma, Venmo.
No kidding.
Well, Liz from our sister station Clear 99 had posted on her TikTok quite a while back that someone had tried to mail her daughter a Target gift card inside like a birthday card, and someone had swiped the gift card out of the card, and the envelope looked totally untouched.
Really?
What?
Yeah, if she didn't know that there was supposed to have been a gift card in there, she wouldn't have known that anyone would have tampered with it. But she was actually able to go to Target, and they were kind of able to like track it down basically.
Wow.
And shut it off. I don't know how, but if that ever happens to you, I guess that's something you could try.
Well, yeah, and John, Grandma and Venmo and Hannah, whoever said Venmo, it doesn't always go as planned because I know we tried that once, and my mom said, "Did you get that?" And it was several $100s, and she was repaying me for something I had prepaid. And she's like, "I just thought, I just searched Chris Bell and put it on in." And I'm like, "Do you know how many Chris Bells there are in the world?" Thank goodness it went to an honorable person, and they kindly sent it back.
That's nice.
But yeah, technology and grandmas sometimes doesn't necessarily go
Point taken.
Go as planned.
And that's why John Marsh doesn't have a Venmo.
Yes.
You too have a Venmo.
Oh, you do? Wow. We'll have to look you up.
But Grandma never puts anything in it, so I don't know.
Feel free to add me on Venmo, John.
There you go.
All right. John, what's in your leftovers?
Story we didn't do much with, but the Missouri Division of Cannabis Regulation has revoked the marijuana manufacturing license of a place in Franklin County. It's called Delta Extraction, and I guess this is the way state law reads. The state claims they source marijuana from outside Missouri, so they revoked their license.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big deal, and those licenses were really hard to come by. If you remember, I think there were 800 appeals of people who lost a license and wanted one. And so the fact that they're revoking that, I think potentially opens it up for somebody else. We've also got a leftover from Sandy. She said, yeah, all of that high school football is going on, but don't forget the third-ranked Mizzou wrestling team has their first meet of the year on Sunday. Pretty exciting.
Right.
And John, you had some updates in your news about court cases coming up, which I think we'll be covering more next week, but we've got some important arguments.
Yeah, we've got the argument that I think there was a League of Women Voters in the Missouri NAACP is the one at the Cole County Courthouse, and that's the one over voter ID, and that was the one when the court dismissed it. What was it? Last year, and then the case got refiled again. So we're kind of watching that one as well. And then the religious groups are before a St. Louis judge over their contention is the abortion ban should be challenged on grounds that the lawmakers who put it together were including their own religious beliefs in it. So we'll see where that one goes.
Yep, those court cases are ongoing, and of course we'll be monitoring that. And as we prepare for the Gary Nolan Show, I want to let you know next week we're going to be here Monday through Wednesday. We've got Steve Spellman in on Monday and Tuesday. He was with us this week hosting. And